We are all natural-born storytellers, whether you think of yourself that way or not. The stories that mold and shape our lives oftentimes become foundational parts of our growth, healing, and even generational experiences. Welcome to Awaken Your Soul Sunday, a storytelling series that shares the moments of awakening, trials and tribulations, truth, and vulnerability in the words and voice of the featured storyteller. And now, a life-changing story from this week's guest.
Hi, I'm Cliff. I'm Lauren's grandfather. I was going to tell you about what happened to me in 1970. In 1970, I worked for a company called the Association of General Contractors, and I ran the convention department, and it was in the middle of March, and we had our convention in Washington, D.C. with about 10,000 people here, and we had set aside a hall, and Bob Hope was supposed to be our guest entertainment. A week before the meeting was to take place, I ended up with severe pains, ended up in the emergency room, and turned out that I had appendicitis. Not any just regular appendicitis. They kept me for a little bit before they operated. When they started to operate, they slit me open to where I needed over 100 stitches because, as they found out, my appendix was a foot long. What they did not notice while they were working on me was that it had pinched off the pulmonary vein going to my leg. So they kept me laying in a hospital bed for a week, and then when I got up and started to move, it was the day that I was to go to Constitution Hall and be with Bob Hope to fulfill the contract. I made it through that night. The next morning, I started to have a lot of pain, and I then got terrific pain, and it turned out to be, as it was, that I was throwing blood clots into my heart and then into my lungs. I ended up at a little rehabilitation area because that was the closest place, and they tried to get me to take x-rays. Every time I'd hold my breath, I'd pass out. They put me in a bed, and so they called the surgeon to come in and look at me from Arlington Hospital. He took one look at me and he said, "Young man," he said, "if I don't get you back to Arlington Hospital where I can work on you, you'll be dead within the day because your lungs are completely filled with blood and fluid." So at that time, I ended up in an ambulance going back. It just so happened that the driver of the ambulance and the fellow who was in the back with me both had been in high school with me. They were both involved at the fire department, and they were kind of castaway guys because they didn't associate with many people. They were all into the fire department. On the trip to the hospital, my heart quit. The young man who was in the back with me, Chuck Satterfield, brought me back. He got me to the hospital, and they had me in the operating room at the hospital, and I started to go out, and all of a sudden there was the bright light, and I was headed for the bright light, but I kind of was fighting it away. I didn't want to go. I could see what was happening in the operating room. I saw all the people below me. I could hear them talking. Well, needless to say, I'm still here, so they brought me back. The next day, a doctor came into my room and he said, "Hi, you don't know me. My name is Dr. Robert Ryan." He said, "You've never met me before or seen me." I said, "Oh, yes, I did. I saw you last night in the operating room. You had on a golf shirt and you had on plaid pants like a golfer's outfit." He was amazed at the time. Anyway, long story short, I found out that he was the person who had trained Chuck Satterfield in emergency medicine. He was the first doctor in the United States to be successfully treating and teaching EMTs how to cope with life. Another interesting side note is that this same doctor, his brother was a priest who was actually the priest in The Exorcist. And he also had a sister who was a nun. I asked him as he became my doctor in later life, why did you not ever marry? He said, because I'm married to my medicine. It would be wrong for me to marry somebody and then give all my time to my patients and to medicine. Lessons learned as I did from this, and I've remembered it from that day forward. People enter into your life for a reason. As is the case, sometimes you don't realize why that person has entered your life or why you ever met them. But there definitely is a reason why you have met that person. I'm a firm believer in that, and I know that as I've gone through life's journey, I'm 78 years old now, and I've met many people. Sometimes I didn't realize why I had met them. Sometimes I found out they would come to me and say, thank you for talking to me the other day. I was feeling pretty down, and you were upbeat to me, and it made me feel so much better. There have been times when people who have said to me, other people don't like me or don't talk to me, but you talk to me. Well, it's not necessarily that you decided or chose to go find that person. They just entered there in your life. And so that's what we call life. I remember from this that I would never treat anyone any different. And I have met presidents. I've worked with presidents. I've worked with movie stars. I have worked with people in football like Bart Starr. So you just need to remember always in your life that you would treat the janitor just like you would treat the bank president, because they're just as important somewhere along the line in your life.
For more information on this week's guest, visit the episode notes section on mindbizlife.com. And if you'd like to share your story with us, click on the Awaken Your Soul tab on mindbizlife.com and fill out the submission form. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend, and be sure to give the podcast a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you tune in and turn it up. Join me on Wednesday for more life mastery conversations, but until then, remember, every level of life is an opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.